Hey everybody, it is John the Comic Guy, and in this episode I want to talk about passion and motivation for collecting comics. And I think this is going to be a good episode for you all to get to know me a little bit better as a person, as a collector, and what motivates me and why I'm motivated. And I think it's just kind of fun because I think that's going to help you reflect on what it is about comic books and toys or albums that really motivate you. And let's explore our psyches, shall we? So when I was a kid, when I was 4 years old, I was almost five, my mom passed away. At that point, my dad, who was a great man, he passed away just a couple of years ago, but he was a great man, uneducated, right? He came from China at a very young age, and if he didn't leave China at that point, which is during the Japanese occupation, there's little doubt he would have starved to death. So he, as a boy, left, became an acrobat with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, and I'm very, very quickly kind of shooting through it. But when I was a boy, he owned a Chinese takeout restaurant in Cedar Grove. Um, he's a great guy, hardworking guy, but he wasn't educated. Um, had a lot of street smarts, but the reality is he was able to keep me alive, keep the family alive, which consisted of me, my sister, who is one of the greatest women ever. She's amazing, and she really took care of me because I was 10 years her junior. And my older brother, who's 13 years my senior, and at that point, he was basically out of the house. So at that point, since we had no money, um, I was kind of a punk. I was kind of a punk kid, but I was lucky that my sister was really watching out to me. My father was just trying to keep the lights on. He was trying to keep us alive, and I had a lot of great friends, and one of which you met was Ernie. So you kind of have the influence of my sister and Ernie, who introduced me to comic books, and then other people who ultimately introduced me to music. So because I had so little money, boy, the few comics I got, I really enjoyed, and the few records I got, I really enjoyed. Um, Ironically enough, with toys, I really wasn't taking care of them too much. I was so destructive as a kid. I guess as a young guy, I was just destructive. But speaking of toys, I want to show you a toy today, which I think is really cool. It's a 10-inch Captain America. I'm going to show you. 10-inch Captain America. It actually has the shield. I really like it. This is from 1997 from Applause. I got this. I won it on the boardwalk in Seaside Heights, New Jersey in 1997. Look at that. I think it's so cool. I love the details. Again, it's a 10-inch figure. It really doesn't have a lot of movable parts, just the arms. But I saw it at one of the games of chance, and I knew I had to have it. Ultimately, it only took a couple of spins, so it might have cost me a couple of bucks to win it. So I was so lucky I got it, and I have treasured it ever since. Since then, I found this plastic box that I kind of stick it in just to keep the dust off of it. I would love to actually tell you about this little Captain America here, which I don't have a date, but we got it from Chuck E. Cheese. It's a little water pistol, so it's like a teeny little squirt thing. It soaks in the water and you squirt it. I got it from Chuck E. Cheese, but you know, this is telling you how old I am. It has little indentations to tell me what it is, where it's from, what the date was. I tried using my phone. I can't see it. My eyes are shot. So anyway, I could tell you that I got that little one from Chuck E. Cheese. The big one is from the Seaside Heights, New Jersey boardwalk, 1997. Applause. So obviously now I'm keeping my toys in a little bit better condition, but I'm telling you what I used to do is I used to have some of the dingling robots, and my dad, when we had a barbecue, believe it or not, after the food was off, I would stick things on top of that just to see what happens. I was a dope. But anyway, so because of that, now you're kind of getting an idea. My mom died at a very young age. My father, he really couldn't afford a lot. I was sort of raised by my sister, and I really didn't have a lot. So really, I think generally I was very lonely, and I didn't have a lot of money. So And I lived on the north side of town in Cedar Grove. So if you kind of know, just visualize in this north side of town, a lot of my friends were, as a young kid, they were pretty far from me. My dad couldn't just drive me over, right? He was, again, working and trying to survive in this Chinese takeout restaurant. So until I got a bicycle, probably when I was 10 or 11, I was sort of banished to the house if I didn't just walk. And if you're thinking, well, John, obviously you're not going to go walking at that young of an age because that's dangerous. At that point, I could have, right? The times back in the 70s were so much different from now. In the 70s, I used to walk to school, the North End School. That was only 2 or 3 blocks away, but at 5 years old, I was walking to school. We all did. So now is a different time. So if in your mind you're saying, "Oh, John, don't sweat it. You could not have walked at that young of an age. It would not have been allowed." Oh, it would have been. And I was just a lazy guy, so I didn't. But because of that, when Ernie introduced me to comics and my friends introduced me to music, wow, that sort of became my friend when I was alone. Right? It was always great playing with people and going out with friends as a youth, but you were always dependent on the parents driving you around, which I really did not have. So comic books sort of saved me, as did music. That's why I think I have such a passion for these, because it's almost a primal thing with me. I mean, these things not only were keeping me occupied, but the colors, it was just teaching me a little bit of like artistic feeling, which we're going to talk about in a second, and I guess in a funny way with comic book role models. Now, let me take another step and show you another pickup I just recently got. So I actually had, before this, the direct version. The direct version I got from John Tudor. He and I traded for it a couple of years ago, and it's actually graded a 9.6. Now, why am I showing this, and why did I pick this up? Is because this is the newsstand version, and if you notice, it has the 150 cover price. So the direct had a 195 cover price. The newsstand version had the 150. Something about this, I like it. So I think this is a limited edition newsstand. I don't know if it was like a 1 in 10. I don't think so. I think it was just the newsstand version. But apparently these newsstand versions aren't that numerous out there. So I like it. Ultimately one day, and for now I'm going to keep them both, but ultimately one day I have a feeling I'm going to probably sell off the 9.6 direct copy for 195, and I think I'm going to keep this one. It might be a lower grade, but I just like it more. So, but a very recent pickup, and I'm happy to have gotten it. Now, as I'm kind of building my artistic skills, me, Ernie, Claudia, we all were trying to draw and create our own comic book characters, and at that point, we really had very little skills. However, what I would say is my skills started developing. Now, by no means am I saying I'm really a skilled artist, because I am not. But I started getting very comfortable on Photoshop, as you guys can tell, because I can make pretty cool custom labels. But also, it allowed me not to use pencil and paper, and I was able to try to draw. And what I ultimately did is, when I had it was a failed attempt at self-publishing, but it was an attempt, and hey, you got to pursue your dream. So I actually published some comic books. So you'll see on Instagram, I published Essence, Stormblazer, Metapatriot. So those were the characters that were the foundation of my mainstream comic line, right? And boy, those were comic book characters that I created when I was hanging out and playing with my buddy Bob Neapolitan, who had multiple sclerosis. So he had MS. We were buddies in college, but by the time we graduated college or approached graduation, he really was wheelchair ridden. And the other day, I just got a picture. I saw a picture posted from his sister or his brother on Facebook. So I downloaded it, and this is a picture of Bob way back when. But again, because he became wheelchair ridden, there was a game called Champions that was superhero based, just kind of like a superhero based Dungeons and Dragons. But I used those characters and I copyrighted them. And the characters I created ultimately became the foundation of my universe. But there is a different character that I created, which Stiletto. And as you can see here, what are you going to do? Explicit material. So this is my mature audience title, which I drew, wrote, colored, lettered. I did everything. So another human being really didn't touch these. I created it all. I put it out. And ultimately, it's funny. This ended up becoming the biggest seller I had. But I'm just very proud of this. It's my adult title, Stiletto, which is a Lost in Space story about a stripper and her dog. And this is the little dog, Rigby. Name sound familiar? Named after my dog. And really, the characterization of Rigby is really of my little dog, Rigby. So that gave me the artistic outlet, which started when I was a youth with Ernie, with Mike, with Claudio. So ultimately, I was able to kind of release the artistic skills a little bit. And again, by no means am I a great artist, and I recognize that, but boy, it was fun creating that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about background, right? It was, it started out a little bit challenging for me and my family, but ultimately that really did hone my passion for comic books, my desire to collect. And maybe that's just me trying to control stuff. I really like to have a lot of records, comic books, and while I don't necessarily obsess about stuff, I am passionate about those things. So tell me what motivates you? What got you into comic books? We all know my friend Doug Drager. His uncle ended up working in a pharmacy or a drugstore, and he was able to give him some of those remnants comics that with the tops cut off, with the top of the front cover cut off. And that started getting him into reading. What got you into collecting comics? And do you find yourself as OCD as I am? Are you as fastidious about it? Are you a big conditioning person? Let me know. I want to get to know you just like you're kind of getting to know me, and I appreciate you doing so. So everybody, I want to thank you so much for your time. Let me know if you like the content. If you do, I would encourage you to please hit the subscribe button. The last point, I just want to quickly thank our sponsor, Comic Skins. These are in Comic Skins. Mark Out at Comic Skin is offering 5% off on the singles, 5-pack, and the 10-pack. So all you have to do at checkout is on coupon code put in John the Comic Guy 5. John the Comic Guy 5. So everybody, please support our sponsor. I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I will talk to you soon. Good girl.